CSEC is fast approaching, so we have to ensure that we cover all our topics for paper 2. So with that being said, we're going to be looking at large kitchen equipment in today's video. More specifically, we're going to be focusing on the stove, the refrigerator, and the microwave. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video with all your colleagues and friends. So without further ado, let's get into the video. By now, you would have seen the document that was released by CSEC with the possible exam topics for Food, Nutrition and Health Paper 2 exam, right? One of those topics included large kitchen equipment. So for this video, we are going to be focusing on all the content that would be related in that regard. Now, as you know, there are different types of kitchen equipment that have different functions based on the particular task or job that it is expected to complete in the kitchen. And they are divided into two categories. And those two categories are large equipment and small equipment. When we speak to large kitchen equipment, we're referring to those larger units or items that you can find in the kitchen that are needed for the proper preparation of foods. Now, oftentimes when persons think about large kitchen equipment, the three that comes to mind include the stove, the refrigerator, and the microwave. However, there are additional units that are also considered as large kitchen equipment, and these include deep freezer, food processor, dishwasher, and the sink. For today's video though, we're going to be focusing on 3, and then in part 2 we will look at the remaining units. So the first large equipment that we're going to focus on is the stove or range. And there are different types of stoves and ranges that are used in the Caribbean. And these include the coal stove, or as some persons like to call it, the coal pot, the Caledonia stove, the oil stove, gas stove and range, and the electric stove. Now, more common or popular to us would be the gas stove and the electric stove, but I'm going to just give you a synopsis of the other 3 just so you have an idea of what they are. So the coal stove or the coal pot, many of you may already know what this is or know what it looks like, because you may have it either at home still, or your grandparents or great-grandparents may have used it before. Now, like I said, it is oftentimes called the coal pot, and it is used in many Caribbean countries, not just Jamaica. And one of the characteristics of it is that the fuel that it uses is charcoal. Now, a lot of persons like to use a coal stove because it gives food a more natural, earthy flavor, makes the food taste good, right? The next one, the Caledonia stove. This is a more vintage type of stove, right? And it's a combination of a stove and an oven. Now, what's interesting about this is that it uses wood as the fuel, but the wood has to be cut in pieces long enough to fit into the fire compartment. And another thing about it is that it has a chimney at the top, which removes smoke and soot. And then the oil stove, now, this is also one that was used back in the day, and it uses kerosene oil as the fuel, and it usually has between 1 to 3 burners, right? But more popularly for today, we tend to focus more on the gas stove and the electric stove. So that's what we're going to look at in the video. Now, the gas stove that many of us have at home currently, it has some really special features, and these include thermostatic controls, spark ignition, automatic timing, control panel, and pilot lights. Now, the first one, the thermostatic control, it is used mainly for safety purposes, and it gives accurate control of cooking processes. Spark ignition, this ignites the gas automatically, eliminating the need for matches. The next one, automatic timing, switches the stove on and off at times that are preset, and this can really save a person some time, right? Number 4, control panel. It houses the burner knobs for turning the stove and oven on and off. And then the pilot lights, they ignite the burners and sometimes the oven when the knob is turned. Now, separate and apart from these special features, we know that gas stove have other elements to it, right? And some of these would include simple stoves have 2 or 3 burners. Ranges, on the other hand, consist of 4 surface units. It may also have an oven that can be used for roasting and baking. There's also a grill or a broiler below the oven, or in some cases it may be at eye level below the burners, right? So this is a more popular choice among persons in Caribbean households, the gas stove. When compared to the gas stove, the electric stove has some special features of its own that would make it a great addition to any kitchen. Now, some of these special features include self-cleaning oven. Now, I know this sounds like a really great feature, because who wouldn't want to have something that is time and labor saving? So with self-cleaning ovens, it cuts down the time and energy consuming task of oven cleaning because it does some of the work for you. Another feature is the inner glass door, right? And this is the best thing since sliced bread, because it allows you to observe your food while you are cooking or baking, right? So let's say, for example, you're baking a cake, and I know most of us, when we're baking, we're anxious to see what is happening in the oven, and so we oftentimes get tempted to open the oven door. And you know that depending on how early on in the preparation you open the oven door, it can cause the product to either fall or not be completed properly. So having the inner glass door now, it gives you the opportunity to actually look at what is happening without interfering with the product. Alright, another special feature is the timer clock, and this automatically turns the oven on or off, and again, this saves you a little bit of time. The next one, lighting. It features light in the oven as well as on the backsplash of the unit itself. And the more interesting part about this now is that it also comes with griddles and toaster devices. In some cases, they may come with towel racks, and they may also come with storage spaces for you to put your smaller utensils like your wooden spoons, your whisks, or whatever other utensil you are using while you're cooking. Now, the following are some points to consider when working with a stove or a range. The first one is that electric stoves only use Fahrenheit temperature. Now, in most cases, if you have a recipe and it calls for degrees Celsius, you will have to do calculations to arrive at the Fahrenheit temperature to use for that particular stove. The next one is that in electric stoves, the electric coil takes a few minutes to heat up and some minutes to cool down. So this is a disadvantage of the electric stove compared to the gas stove, is that it takes a while to heat up and to cool down. And then the third one, do not open the oven door frequently, as this will cause cool air to enter the oven, and we all know what will happen if cool air enters the oven. It can affect the finished product or the overall look of whatever it is that you are baking. The following are some guidelines to consider when purchasing or choosing stoves for your kitchen. Now, oftentimes when persons are purchasing appliances, they only think about the overall look of the product, but in actuality, there are other things that you must bear in mind, and these include the durability and strength of the material used to make the stove. You want to look about ease of cleaning. So you want to ensure that you purchase something that's not going to give you a hard time to clean in terms of corners and crevices, and again, the type of material that is used to make it. You also want to think about the kind of fuel or power source that you have available. You want to think about the reliability of the manufacturer that you're purchasing from. Think about the flexibility of use, meaning that you don't want to purchase something that only has one specific function. You want to get something that's going to allow you to do more than one thing, and you want to also ensure that you get something that has safety features that will allow for ease of use. When it comes down to caring for your oven or your stove, there are some guidelines that you should follow as well. right? So you want to ensure that you follow your manufacturer's directions for use and care of the stove. You want to ensure that you keep the range or the stove clean. So that means that you should wipe spills immediately, as this will increase the efficiency of the range and reduce fire hazards. For removable parts such as oven racks, drip pans, or reflector bowls, you can remove those, soak them in detergent and warm water for some time before washing them. You want to ensure that you clean your oven with a good oven cleaner whenever it is necessary. And of course, you can place the range in a level position out of excessive drafts in a light and well ventilated place near other working areas in the kitchen. So if you follow these guidelines, you're ensuring that you get maximum use of your stove or your range. And of course, when you care for and maintain your stove, you're ensuring that the product is not only durable, but it also will work more efficiently. Moving on to the second large kitchen equipment, which is the refrigerator. Now I know for some, the refrigerator is their favorite appliance in the kitchen, and that is because it has all the food, right? But when we refer to refrigeration, we're talking about the process of producing a low temperature, right? So refrigerators, they are used mainly to provide cold storage in the home. And by using a refrigerator, perishable foods, and when we talk about perishable foods, we're talking about those food items that tend to spoil more easily. So by using the refrigerator, perishable foods may be quickly cooled and spoilage prevented. Most refrigerators are a combination of a refrigerator and a freezer unit, with the freezer being a very low temperature for frozen food storage. Key terms related to the refrigerator. Now, quite often you may come across some of these terminologies on the CSEC past paper, so we're going to go through them and their definition. And the terminologies are star rating, auto defrost, energy rating, thermostat, and drain pan. Now, the first one, star rating, it refers to a system that depicts the energy efficiency of the refrigerator, right? And it uses the rating between 1 through to 5, 5 being the highest rating. And the higher the rating, it basically means that it has a higher efficiency and uses less electricity. Auto defrost is the second term, and it basically means that the refrigerator automatically prevents the buildup of ice on the back of the fridge by heating the back wall for a short period of time to melt away any ice that may have formed. The third one, energy rating. This is similar to the star rating in the essence that it is an industry standard rating ranging from A to G, which indicates how much energy your refrigerator consumes when operating normally. So whereas the star rating uses 1 through 5, the energy rating uses A to G, all right? Thermostat is the next one, and this is a temperature triggered switch which toggles the compressor on and off to maintain a desired temperature. And the final one being the drain pan. Quite a few of you would know what the drain pan is. It's basically located next to the compressor, and it collects water produced during the defrost cycle of your refrigerator. Okay, so now that we have covered some common terminologies related to the refrigerator, we can now look at the actual parts of the refrigerator. So on the screen, you are seeing a diagram of a refrigerator, and it has all the correct labels. So looking at the first one, the freezer compartment, and this is at the top of the refrigerator, and we all know the items that you would put in a freezer compartment. So we would put the items that need to be frozen. So for example, you can put poultry, you can put meat, you can put desserts in there such as ice cream, popsicles, icicles. You can also put some vegetables in the freezer as well. The next part of the refrigerator is the thermostat control, and we just spoke to that a while ago in the key terms related to the refrigerator. So the thermostat control, basically, as the name says, it controls the temperature of the refrigerator. The next compartment of the refrigerator is the shelf. Now the shelf is the more common aspect of the refrigerator to label, because quite often persons like to put beverages or leftover food items or any other food item that needs to be chilled. Moving on to the crisper or the crisper cabin, and this is where you would store your fruits and vegetables. And then the final part of the refrigerator that we're going to focus on is the door. Now in the door, you know that there's a compartment there for eggs specifically, and in the door also you can also keep beverages, or you can keep condiments such as mayonnaise, mustard, peanut butter, jelly, etc. Alright, so now we're at our checkpoint question for today's video. So what you're required to do is to look at the table, and you're going to identify which row in the table shows the food items that would be correctly placed in the different positions in the refrigerator. So I'm just going to give you about 10 seconds to look and identify your answer. If you selected C as your response, then you are correct. So in the door, you would have your eggs. In the crisper, you would store your lettuce. And in the freezing compartment, you would store your beef. And this question was taken from the 2018 multiple choice paper. I believe it was question 50. Okay, so now we're going to be moving on to cleaning the refrigerator. So these are the guidelines that you should follow if you want to clean the refrigerator properly. So the first thing that you want to ensure that you do is to turn the control knob off or unplug the refrigerator. The second thing is to remove all food items from the refrigerator before cleaning. Number 3, place removable parts such as the crisper and shelves in the sink, wash in water and a little baking soda, and then dry. Number 4, wash the inside walls of the refrigerator with warm water and baking soda. Of course, if you don't have baking soda, you can substitute with soap, and non-abrasive soap. Number 5, replace the parts. Switch on the refrigerator and then transfer food items back to the refrigerator, and then the final step is to wipe the exterior and polish dry. Now, one thing to bear in mind when cleaning the refrigerator is that you want to avoid using any harsh cleaning agents on the refrigerator, as this will remove the natural sheen of the item. All right, and we don't want that. So follow these guidelines and you will ensure that you keep and maintain your refrigerator to the best standard there is. Rules to follow when freezing food. All right, so the first one is you want to ensure that you choose suitable packaging materials and pack according to the directions. All items placed in the freezer must be kept airtight, as drying out will affect the food items in the freezer. Number 2, you want to ensure that you label and date all your foods, and you want to ensure that you rotate the foods in the freezer so that the ones that were stored the longest can be used first. Thirdly, you want to freeze in quantities that the freezer can accommodate. You don't want to overcrowd the freezer. And then number 4, defrost and clean the freezer as directed. Some freezers are self-defrosting and need to be cleaned occasionally. Others should be cleaned once or twice a year. And that's it for the refrigerator basically. So we're going to be moving on now to the third large kitchen equipment, and that is the microwave oven. So the microwave is another common large kitchen equipment that is found in many households, and it has a lot of different functions. You can use it to cook foods, you can use it to defrost frozen foods, and you can use it to heat foods that are already prepared. Now, in case you're wondering how the microwave works, like for example, you may look at the microwave and It lights up, you put your food in it for a couple minutes or seconds and it automatically becomes hot. Like, how is that even possible? Well, we all know that the microwave uses electricity, right? So what happens is that this electricity is converted into something called microwave energy, right? Then, from the magnetron tube, the microwave energy is transmitted to the oven cavity where it is reflected, transmitted, and absorbed by the food. And then in the food, these microwaves are then transferred into heat. And that's how your food becomes hot in just a matter of seconds or minutes. So the microwave oven, just like the stove and the refrigerator, it has special features that would make it a great addition to any household. And some of these special features include electronic commands, power levels, temperature probes, moisture sensors, automatic defrosting, and turntable. So the first one, electronic commands. Most microwave ovens have electronic controls, and this is an important feature because seconds are really important. So in most cases, if you look at some microwaves, you may see numbers and letters that are printed clearly and the control panel is well labeled. So for example, you may have one key that is designated for a specific task. For example, on some microwaves, you may see a button that is labeled cook, or you may see a button that is labeled time, and it does not require you to set any power level or power setting. Once you press the button, it is automatic. In terms of power levels, larger microwave ovens may have 10 or more levels, whereas for those microwaves that are less expensive, they may have one power level that remains constant. In terms of temperature probe, the microwave has a feature where it keeps track of the internal temperature of the food item, and based on that temperature, it will either turn off the microwave or switch it to a lower setting when the preset temperature is reached. Moisture sensor. It tracks the moisture level in the microwave as the food releases steam. And this is useful because it works with auto reheat, so it shuts off the oven when the food is steaming. Next, automatic defrosting. So basically, any microwave oven can adequately thaw food if you break apart defrosted pieces and turn the food occasionally. So this feature, it works in some microwave ovens by lowering the power level over a thawing period, and for some microwave ovens, the defrosting works for a programmed time period based on the weight of the food. And then the turntable, now majority of you would know what the turntable is, and most models come with a turntable, and this is basically important because it improves heat distribution, right? So it reduces the amount of usable space in the oven. Now we can move on to some safety precautions to follow when we are using the microwave. So the first one, if a fire occurs in the microwave, the first thing you should do is to turn it off, and then you want to ensure that you leave the door closed. After that, you should disconnect the power cord or shut off the power source or the circuit breaker. Next, use a pot holder when removing items from the microwave. Quite often, persons tend to forget that the item that they're removing from the microwave is hot, so holding onto it with your bare hands is going to cause you some sort of bodily harm. Alright, number 3, do not attempt to operate the microwave with the door open, as this can cause harmful exposure to microwave energy. Number 4, do not operate the microwave if it is damaged. Number 5, do not immerse the cords or plug in water. And number 6, after heating foods or drink, you want to ensure that you stir it well and test the temperature before serving. In terms of caring for the microwave properly, you should ensure that you turn the microwave oven off before you start to clean it. Wipe food spills and splatters with a sponge or a soft damp cloth with mild non-abrasive soap and detergent. Do not allow water to seep into the ventilation opening during cleaning. Clean the outer microwave surface with a damp cloth, and of course you want to keep the inside of the microwave clean. And now onto one of the more frequent questions asked: what are some suitable materials that you can place in the microwave? Now, some of the approved dishes and cookware that can be placed in the microwave include heat-proof glass utensils, ceramic utensils, plastic containers, china dishes without metal trim, paper products such as paper plates, paper towels that can be used to cover foods. You can also use cooking bags or pouch packs, and you can also use plastic wrap. And then naturally, you want to avoid using metal pans or dishes with metal handles or metal trim. You want to avoid using foil pans, and you want to avoid using aluminum foil as well, as this can cause damage to the microwave or cause a fire. All right. If you made it to the end of this video, you deserve a real thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, leave a like, drop a comment below, and more importantly, share this video with someone who may find it useful. Until next time guys, let's prep for CSEC.